Have you ever seen a piece of art that's just beautiful, but at the same time deeply, deeply strange? Something that kind of pulls you in, but also totally confuses you? Well, if you have, you've got a taste of the world of Filipino artist Flor Baradi. Her paintings are vibrant, they're incredibly detailed, and they're populated by, well, monsters. So let's dive in and figure out what is really going on with these incredible works.
And right away, the artist herself gives us our first big clue. She's not trying to hide the strangeness. She is leaning right into it. When she uses words like bizarre, arcane, and macabre, she's basically handing us the key to her world. She's telling us, yep, what you're about to see is weird on purpose. Welcome to my very peculiar storybook.
So, who are these stars of this storybook? They belong to her most famous series, a collection she simply calls the Grotesques. And trust me, once you meet them, this is where things start to get really interesting. So, first up, let's meet Eva. The scene? Totally normal. It's a chic rooftop party, she's stylish, looks like she's having the time of her life. But just take a closer look. Eva isn't exactly human, is she? She's this incredible collage of different forms, a fantastical creature just dropped right into a perfectly normal everyday scene of luxury. And it's not a one-off thing. Check out Alex. Again, the setting is picture perfect. It's the ideal summer day, a girl about to leap into a sparkling pool. But Alex is just as surreal as Eva. And this contrast, this juxtaposition, that's the whole key. It's our familiar world, but it's inhabited by the utterly fantastic.
And Madeline's portrait here gives us a real close-up on the technique. You can see she's a composite figure, right? She's literally built from this enormous eye, these rich fabrics, and all sorts of other random objects. So the point isn't just that they're monsters, it's how they're monsters. They seem like they're assembled from all these little pieces of our world, which, makes you wonder, what's the deal? What does it all mean?
Okay, to understand the why, we first have to get a handle on the how. So let's pull back the curtain a little bit on Flor Baradi herself and her really unique creative process.
Baradi's journey wasn't some straight line to painting monsters. She graduated with a fine arts degree and actually started a super successful career as a jewelry designer. We're talking winning major awards. And that background in precise, disciplined design, it's fascinating when you see the chaotic, imaginative freedom in her paintings now. She made that big switch to painting in 2006, and later, her new path led her to win the huge Philippine Art Awards.
So how does she do it? Well, her method is kind of like alchemy. It all starts with magazines. The very source of our culture's ideas about fashion, beauty, and what a perfect life looks like. She then cuts out specific images, not just randomly, but with a real purpose. She mashes these different pieces together, creating her hybrid creatures on paper first. And only then does she bring them to life on canvas with her paintbrush, placing them in these incredible imaginary worlds.
And her inspirations? They are just as eclectic as her materials. She pulls from everywhere. You've got classic horror, like Gothic novels and Lovecraft. Then there's native Filipino folklore, Victorian oddities, and sci-fi. But mix that with high art, like Renaissance muses, and then throw in 80s supermodels and today's Instagram influencers. It is a total collision of worlds.
All right, so we know how she builds these incredible monsters, literally from the pages of magazines. But now for the really important part, why? What on earth is she trying to say with these bizarre creations? And here it is. This is not just fantasy for the sake of fantasy. Baradi herself calls her work a tongue-in-cheek critique. Her monsters? They are a direct response to the absurdities of the world we're all living in right now. They're meant to be like a funhouse mirror held right up to our society.
And you can see exactly what's in that reflection. She is tackling some huge, monstrous ideas, things like fake news, sexism, climate change denial. But she's got a special focus on the ridiculous standards of beauty we all face, and the way female bodies are kind of packaged and sold in the media. Her collage-like figures, literally built from the magazines that push these standards, become this powerful, brilliant satire of that curated artificial reality we see online every single day.
Okay, so it's clever social commentary, we get that. But how does the formal art world look at this stuff? Let's explore how this kind of work makes that big leap from just being bizarre to being considered serious art.
Well, the first thing to know is that this isn't coming out of nowhere. Baradi is actually working in a long, respected tradition. Grotesque art has been around since the Renaissance. It's always been a tool for artists to push back against what's considered beautiful and to poke fun at society's rules.
Baradi is just giving this historical art form a major update for the digital age.
Art experts see her work as serious for a few key reasons. First, there's the conceptual depth. It's not just a monster, it's a real statement on body positivity. Second, her artistic methodology connects her work directly to major modern art movements like surrealism. Third, it acts as advocacy through art, giving a platform to female voices. And finally, there's viewer engagement. You can't just glance at these paintings, you have to stop and think. And that right there is a hallmark of really important art. And all of this leads to a really crucial interpretation of her art. It is a powerful feminist statement. Think about it. By taking images of women from the media, literally deconstructing them, and then rebuilding them into something new, powerful, and strange, she's reclaiming the female form. She's resisting those narrow definitions of beauty and creating a totally new narrative.
But don't think for a second that she's a one-trick pony. To really get Flor Baradi, you have to know that her creativity and her intellect go way, way beyond just the grotesques. She is truly an artist of many worlds. For example, take a look at her other major series called Floralia. Here, she looks at the plant world and finds that same hidden strangeness. We see plants as pretty, harmless decorations, right? But Baradi shows us their secret life, how they wage territorial wars underground, communicate through these vast networks, and, as she puts it, that smell of freshly cut grass, it's basically the scent of their silent screams. It's another brilliant example of her finding the macabre in the mundane.
And beyond the canvas, she is an absolute force in the art community. She's not just a painter, she's a curator running a gallery, a community builder who co-founded artist groups, a vocal advocate for women artists, and even an environmentalist using her platform to protect natural habitats in the Philippines. I mean, this paints a picture of a deeply committed and influential person whose impact is felt far beyond her own studio.
So in the end, Flor Baradi's unsettling art really isn't about imaginary monsters, is it? It's about us. She masterfully cuts up the glossy pages of our own culture and pieces them back together to show us the strange, distorted, and yeah, sometimes monstrous reality that's hiding just under the surface. And that's where the real power is. It leaves us with one final thought. If you had to create a monster from the absurdities of today, what would it look like?